afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another Nacho Tuesday. And today I have Rubin. He is the CEO of Senders. And without further ado, we'd love if you could introduce your company and what you guys do over there.
Sure. Andy, nice to hear your announcer voice.
Thank you.
You didn't do that. You didn't do that during our prep call. I like it. It's really like smooth and nice.
Save the best for the moments that matter.
So hello everyone watching here and afterwards. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it, Andy. Senders helps B2B companies with their cold emailing. We focus mainly on the delivery and sending side. Google, Microsoft, places like that are clamping down on the ability of B2B senders to be able to send their cold emails. We maintain alternate infrastructure that allows companies to send more emails if they need to, but also have more control over them, better deliverability, more granularity on whether they're going to the spam box and things like that. Most of the companies we work with are trying to maintain a B2B outbound motion. They're using Apollo.io, they're using Outreach.io, and they're sensing that either emails aren't being able to be sent, like their SDRs are complaining that they're getting flagged by Google or Microsoft, or they have a sneaking suspicion that they're not being delivered properly. And they reach out to our team and we quickly diagnose the problem. And we typically do monthly plans with them based on the number of volume and the number of reps they have sending to completely solve this kind of sending problem. Does that make sense? Andy, did I do okay? I wanted to give enough detail so people understand where I'm coming from.
That's perfect. Yeah, because I think a lot of people have that issue today. You know, I hear a lot of marketers complaining about their response rates from their cold emails really dropping drastically. So it seems to be becoming more of a pervasive issue across the board. So would you agree that these email sending and deliverability issues are becoming more commonplace with B2B marketing?
Yes. There's a few sort of tectonic plates that are shifting. My team has been doing cold email since 2016 for clients. I did it before that for companies that I worked with or worked for or founded. And from 2016 to 2020, it was pretty easy to send cold emails and have them delivered.
Yep.
You could send up to 400 emails a day from a single Google workspace without any issue. And Google seemed to be generally okay with it. Things got a little bumpy in 2018 when GDPR was rolled out. And then by 2020, the number of sends was shrunken almost down to 100 or so per day, which might sound like a lot. It depends. Usually people who listen to things like this are either hardcore opt-in marketers where they're like, why are you sending any cold emails at all? Cold emails come from one of the lower levels of hell. Or you're a B2B outbound person or building a B2B SaaS company and you're like, yeah, 100 emails a day, that would be great. We can barely get 25 out. So we've seen it gone from like 400 a day, no problem, down to 100 a day 2020. 2020, my team said, okay, we need to get all of our stuff off of sending. Like we can't use it. We have to get everything off of Google Workspace. This is untenable. And then now today you hear people who are getting flagged when they send 20 emails, 25 emails, maybe 50 emails. That's, of course, a big problem if you're running a proper SDR team where your third and fourth or fifth or sixth SDRs are the one getting clamped down on. Now, you don't just have a sending problem, but you have the person can't really do their job. So a lot of the companies that come to us are coming to us with like, hey, we do need to send more emails, but really like Billy and like Sally, we just hire them and they can't even do their jobs. They're supposed to do 100 emails a day and 100 calls a day. And after 7 emails or 20 emails or something, they're getting suspended. How can we solve it? And the answer really is you have to get your sending off of Google because they're being very clear that they really don't want you sending from there. So that's a problem that we solve over and over again. And then, of course, in order to solve the problem, you need IP addresses and all this, all these other mechanics that make the whole machine kind of run. And to Andy, to sort of sum up the issue, what we see is that in the past, to have an email infrastructure type expertise was reserved for Series B and later, like very large companies. And then that expertise has kind of crept all the way down to now where we have seed stage companies, obviously a lot of Series A and Series B, but seed stage companies also paying us monthly to handle this for them, when in the past, they never even would imagine that they would have to deal with email, like pay for email infrastructure, this kind of thing, for expertise in this until much, much later.
Yeah, as they say, easy come, easy go, right? So with Apollo.io and the proliferation of the ability to actually get data for people, A lot more people have jumped into cold email marketing. It's created a lot of problems. Like we were talking earlier about spam calls and whatnot, but spam emails are also a problem too, right? So it makes sense.
Well, I mean, if you're a legitimate business sender, and you can easily get the data from Apollo.io or ZoomInfo or something, the illegitimate folks can get the same thing. So that creates issues. And then cost per lead has gone up across the board, like what you used to be able to get from LinkedIn or Google Ads and these other places. And email is de facto free. So it attracts a lot of people to that space. But, honestly, the thing that surprises me the most is that cold email still works. I think a lot of people on the internet, like on LinkedIn or whatever, might say, cold email doesn't work anymore. Or cold email works. Or almost no one has the kind of super wide, three-dimensional 4K view or 8K view of cold email like our team does, because we're handling it for dozens and dozens and dozens, 60, 70 companies at a time are working with us. So we can definitively say that cold email is definitely working for a large group of B2B senders, and for other sector of the market or other sections, it's not working that well. So it's sort of like it works very well and it also doesn't work well. Probably the same thing with cold calling or almost any other kind of B2B outbound motion. There's like a lot of variation. And the same thing goes with sending and delivery. If you're trying to email into giant hospital systems, you're probably going to have problems. Why? Because they have very high security for good measure. And if you're emailing into early stage B2B companies or early stage SaaS companies, probably not that hard to get through.
But they don't have the big budgets.
Potentially they don't have the big budget, or that's just not your target market. So you have to think a lot about, all these things. We try to keep a very wide view, and we see our position as enabling the teams that know who they need to send and why to do the sending that they need to. And we rarely get involved too much in the copy and the targeting and things like that, because that's really the realm of marketing people, salespeople, rev ops people that are more understanding of the target market they're going after.
What kind of increases do you guys generally see across the board once they go from a program where they're kind of running things through Google to working with you guys to kind of help with their email deliverability?
That's a good question. There's sort of two ways to think about this. There's the painkiller side and there's the vitamin side. Almost all the companies that come to us, it's because they have some sort of pain. So we go into painkiller mode. We're not really thinking too much about vitamin. The vitamin, it's sort of like, I always joke that if you are a knee doctor or something, almost no one goes in and they're like, "Doctor, my knee's in great shape. Look." Why are you here? You know what I mean? It's like, why are you
better? Do you have bionic knees?
Right. But so people come to us and they have some sort of problem. The benefit is they now can send the emails that they actually need to get sent. And if those have healthy open rates and healthy deliverability, they're really enthusiastic. Whether that actually is a higher open rate than they would have had Google worked very, very well, that's sometimes tough to say. And sometimes it's on par and sometimes it's a little bit less. But ultimately, you can get more volume out. So even if there was a 2 to 5% differential in open rates from one system versus another, you can still make up the difference and hit the numbers. Also, most like very, very sort of productive sales teams have 3 ways that they're doing outbound. They're doing emailing, they're doing phone call, and they're doing LinkedIn. So on a sort of net basis, oftentimes what we're seeing is by working with us, they're able to get more of the email part out consistently, which drives opens of the email, which can drive triggers to do phone calls, which can drive triggers to do LinkedIn outbound, which can ultimately boost all their numbers across the board. But whether you're really attributing it to like our magic or just our ability to sort of make the pain go away is an open question, I would say.
Definitely. What got you kind of get down this path? So you said you were consulting with a lot of clients and you kind of realized there was a bigger pervasive issue and you wanted to go solve that problem, or
remember when we were chatting about questions earlier and you had a question about like failure or something like that, and I summarily erased it. I was like, I don't want to talk about failure. But the truth is that I had a marketing services company that I built and sold, and my co-founder and I were like, we are geniuses. Look at us. We're so smart. So we decided to start a software company. And the software company, we raised some money from angels. We did a very good accelerator. We did everything right. A lot of outbound, a lot of really good leads, even some deals with large retailers and all this stuff. We were building software early in the influencer marketing space, but we ultimately couldn't make it work and we had to shut it down. So it was like a big failure.
Man, I feel like I was doing the same thing. I had an influencer marketing platform in 2011.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
First software I built too. So a lot of learning lessons there.
Wild world. Now, if you're just stuck in that business, it would have been so successful, Andy.
I know, right? Yeah, I got laughed at in VC meetings. They're like, nobody's going to be shills for brands. I'm like, what? Now everybody's begging for it.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild how doing things early can sometimes
Time is
hurt
important.
you know. But what I was going to say is, when we failed, I basically turned my attention to all my founder friends, and I just like, you guys know me. What am I good at that you need help with? And enough of them were, hey, we need help with cold email because that's a pain for all these reasons. And so I said, okay, I'll start a cold email outbound agency. That sounds fine. So in 2016, I started an agency that did it. And then by 2020, we had gotten really good at sending. And other guys had gotten really good at other things, but we had gotten really good at sending. And so then we doubled down on that. And then we built out the part of the business that really just cares about email infrastructure and that part. And that's sort of where we are today. I'm not sure how we'll pivot in the future. There might be more dimensions to this that we might get into. But as of now, helping people with email sending and delivery is a really important job. We really feel like it's sort of a really important piece of enablement for teams that are trying to do it. And we only work with legitimate business senders, so proper SaaS platforms and folks that have something very normal to sell. We're not working with like scammer type folks at all. And we don't allow them to send from our infrastructure. So we find the work to be pretty gratifying, even if all in all, most people would wish that they got fewer cold emails.
Yeah, maybe somebody's got to do it though, right? And I think the demand's heavier than ever because a lot of marketers, like I mentioned, I talked to, do have this consistent problem with cold email deliverability. A lot of times, if their emails are even getting into the inbox, they're just not seeing any sort of demo bookings, phone calls. They're not seeing.
That's a problem. Those folks should reach out to us and we can talk with them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what else? What other kind of issues do you see with email deliverability or things that companies should look out for?
I think that there's any sudden changes in numbers that were once pretty consistent probably means that there might be something wrong.
Yeah.
For example, your domain has accrued bad reputation, or someone on your team is doing something they really shouldn't be doing, like they're dumping emails or something. The other thing that's a little bit of a left field thing that most people don't really think about is who else inside your company is doing emailing from the main domain.
Yeah. So
there are basically 4 kinds of email. There's your regular corporate day-to-day email that you might send from, Benny, Benny at senders.co or something. Then there's sales emails, which are like the cold emails. Those are like the really damaging ones, which if you're also sending from that same domain, that's a problem. And then you have marketing emails, your email newsletter and things like that, which if you're also sending from your same domain, brings sending problems. And then you have your transactional emails, things that are coming from inside the application layer, password resets, things like that. If all of those are going out from the same domain, you run into issues, or you can run into issues.
Yeah.
And oftentimes your cold emails are destroying the sending from other parts of your stack. So one of the things we do is spend a lot of time with clients, which we call it email fencing, where we're creating divisions between all of them. Oftentimes you don't need them to be separate domains. They can be done with subdomains.
Yeah.
So that's part of the equation in this mix. But what I was going to say is you need to look at what's happening with your own sending, and then you need to sort of look around your company and say, what else is going on with sending? What other issues could be causing this? And sometimes you'll find the root of the issue isn't even in the cold email at all. It's the marketing team sent out a really clever email newsletter, and in the last minute, they put a bit.ly link instead of a regular UTM parameter link. And that redirect caused a bunch of the market emails to go to spam. and that brought down the cold email sending and other things too, like that kind of thing. So
Yeah, a lot of
cross
people,
contamination in a way.
yeah, a lot of people are using different like subdomains, like you mentioned, for cold outbound. So they might have a domain that's very similar, but anything they can do to, make sure that you're not hurting the main company's domain reputation, because once you lose that, then you kind of lose everything.
There is potential, but keep in mind, people go overboard with these things too. They create too many domains, they widen them out too far.
Yeah.
If you think about a very large company like UPS, they have maybe 5 domains that they use in total, and they're sending who knows how many emails, hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
So you don't need to have dozens and dozens of domains and all this different stuff. I think that's sort of that introduces other problems.
Yeah.
For example, where the internet ceases to understand who the real you is versus someone pretending to be you. And then they become reluctant to deliver your emails, even though you're like, I swear it's me. And like, yeah, but there are 20 domains that look very similar to yours that all say very similar things. We don't know if it's the real you. And you're like, I swear it's me. And there's no mechanism to tell the internet, no, this is the real me. And those are all me, but also sales emails or something. So there's also a risk at spreading out too far. It's a happy balance somewhere in there.
True. Any other tips for improving deliverability?
It's a good question. I think that you can't overlook the importance of SPF, DMARC, DKIM, which is email infrastructure on the domain, on the DNS side. People oftentimes say, "Oh, we have SPF, but the other ones like we'll do later or something." It's like, no, you probably should integrate all of them properly. Make sure that they're properly aligned.
Oh, for the people that don't understand these terms, would you mind elaborating on that? Because I swear, still to this day, a lot of people don't know what it means.
Sure. DNS records are, well, let's tell a story because it's more fun. Imagine you had a 6-year-old child and you told your 6-year-old child, if I can't come pick her up from school, I'm going to send someone else to pick you up from school. And whoever that person is, they're going to tell you the secret word. And if they don't know the secret word, run back into the school and tell your teacher, that someone weird is here and there's stranger danger. That's basically what SPF, DMARC, and DKIM do. You're sending your email with a secret key. That's DKIM. You have half the key. That's like the sort of password or whatever. And you're giving instructions on what to do if the secret keys don't match up. That's basically what DMARC is. And SPF sort of fits in there too. It's hard to make a story that fits all 3 of these. But basically, it's sort of like a passport or a secret code that lets the recipient know that it was actually you who sent it. And the thing that these are trying to prevent against is me going up to the edge of the internet and saying, I'm from Bank of America. Here's an email from me. And pretending to be a bank that's then trying to steal your money or something.
Yeah.
So that's called spoofing. So it's trying to prevent people from pretending to be someone else over email. And they built all these mechanisms in order to do that. And those are SPF, DMARC, and DKIM. And if you use Google domains or something, those are things you configure in your Google domain settings or in your GoDaddy settings and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so definitely get that set up before you start your outbound campaigns. Otherwise, you're going to
start them before you do your marketing emails, before you do your corporate emails, everything, and double check them if you haven't looked at them in a while.
How often do you find businesses they don't even get the basics right when it comes to their email marketing? It seems like I've even talked to people that didn't even know, like I mentioned, what these terms were, and they've been running their business for a while now, and you're like, what? How do you not know what that means?
Well, I think that they're out of sight, out of mind. I think a lot of things are out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
It seems like, not to oversimplify, but the project of the internet is to abstract more and more layers. For example, I don't know how old you are, but back in the day, there wasn't even AWS. If you wanted to, you had to do all sorts of things to set up web apps to operate. Before that, there weren't even web apps. Everything would have to run locally, So over time, like, things have gotten more and more abstract. And I think that when you buy a new domain and you set up a new company and you go through that beginning flow, whatever it is, you think, oh, I'll just click, I'll do this later. And then later never comes. I'm like, that's that. You know, same thing happens when you're doing other kinds of configuration for an app. You might create a HubSpot account, and then you might say, oh, I'll skip that step. I'm not sure what I'm going to call the subdomain for housing it. And then down the road, someone's like, hey, you know, all your forms are broken. And you're like, why? It's like, because I think somebody went in and they entered a new subdomain for your thing. And you're like, oh, well, we had 100 forms. Now they're all broken. You know what I mean? It's like the basic stuff you sort of skip because it's so abstract and it's so easy just to say, oh, I'll do this later, and then never circle back around to do it. I don't blame anyone for that kind of thing. There's so much minutia in setting up a company, setting up marketing, setting up this, setting up that you can't really blame someone if they have 5 email subscribers for not setting up a subdomain for email sending from day one. I doubt it was even something they considered.
Yeah, the details matter, though. To your point, it does build up over time, right? Everything that you do needs to be built on a good foundation. So it's better to just kind of check the boxes before you go to market. A lot of founders, especially if they're launching a product, or a business in general, get very excited about, you know, going out there and getting sales. You know, even if they have just the most basic of basic MVPs, the next step is always thinking, I'm dialing for dollars to try to build a business here.
Yeah, and there's nothing really wrong with that. I mean, in my own personal story, this particular business, we grew well past 7 figures in annual recurring revenue before I even chose a name for it. I didn't even have a website for it because
it sounds like an agency.
Yeah, basically agency, because it's based on reputation and trust, and that you put that forward, and then people meet with you and they go, hey, I trust you to do the thing you're saying you're going to do.
Yeah, and especially for marketers, I've seen it's like the roofer's roof has a leaky roof or whatever. The cobbler's children have no shoes. They're so focused on helping other people, they don't even take care of their own stuff.
That can happen for sure. I think that a little bit later down the path, when I did decide to set up a brand and do all that kind of stuff, it obviously was beneficial in other ways. Totally. And my team felt a little bit better about it, because they felt we were being like, I work for this guy named Benny, and we do this. Yeah, it was like, you work for some dude, and then now like you have a company, and it can take on a little bit of a life of its own.
They're like, call Benny. Here's his number. Don't ask where I got it.
Yeah, seriously. Well, that is kind of how it feels the early days. I think probably a lot of the people listening are in a similar position.
Yeah, it's kind of the same
business before they knew it.
Agency back in the day too, and very similar kind of a thing. Just very focused on the clients, you know, just word of mouth referrals. You know, I don't even think I had a good website either. It was just terrible. But I was so focused on the work with my clients. You know, I did a lot of marketing strategy work. So, you know, all my time, like 10, heck, even back then I was doing like 12-hour days, just crazy because I had the energy. You know, I still do a lot of work now, but not like back in those days. I think some weeks I clock like 100 hours a week.
Yeah. Doesn't surprise me even a little bit.
There's
also excitement. Clients can give you energy. I mean, I was talking with a friend yesterday who said, you know, you've been doing this a while, you're kind of tired. And it's like, even if you're tired, companies are coming to us with very specific problems that we really understand how to solve. Yep. And if the price that we charge matches the equation of what they're willing to or expecting to pay, it's magical in a way, because we can definitively solve the problem.
Yeah.
Like that, there's something really nice about, I imagine it's similar if you're, you know, a very necessary job, like a doctor or something. We're obviously not nearly at that level of necessity, but if a doctor nails a really tough diagnosis, and they're like, the good news is this can be solved. Like, we can cure you of this. That must feel really good. I mean, it's still a journey to cure it and everything, but that's a similar feeling that we get when people come to us and we're like, that's a problem that we know how to solve. Well, you know, give us X amount of time and it will be solved. That's really gratifying, because they're banging their head against a problem that we know how to solve. Even if at the end of the day, you can sort of throw shade on, like, yeah, well, all you're doing is helping people send more cold emails. Talk to a RevOps person or a sales ops person that has been going down the rabbit hole for days, for hours and hours and hours, trying to sort out what went wrong, what's going on, what tools they need to try to solve this. And then, you know, we solve it. They're like, wow, that was great. Thank you so much.
There's a lot of value in that. And there's a lot of purpose, I guess, to it, right? And one of the reasons I got in marketing myself was to help other people. So by helping their businesses, you're helping, helping that entire company. You're helping their employees have a job. There's a lot of,
Yeah.
there's a lot of dominoes that kind of fall from that, right? So all the work that you do up front. So, as the email deliverability doctor, it really does make a big difference for people.
If you're having email deliverability problems,
Yep. But like we mentioned earlier, it's a core aspect of today's marketing, right? So if it's not working, you're kind of, if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's around to hear it, did it ever fall? So same goes for business too, right?
Emails just disappear into the ether.
Yeah, where do
they
those
really
go?
do.
I keep getting in my spam for some reason.
Or not even in your spam. That's getting into spam is sometimes an accomplishment.
Yeah, true.
You made it in there. Didn't even get it. Didn't even get delivered in any way.
I don't even know what's going wrong. Like that's the worst is when people don't know what's going wrong. They just know they're not getting any calls or anything out of it.
Yeah.
So I guess what challenges did you face as a company early on, and how did you overcome them?
I think that we face a very clear challenge always. The ever present challenge is new people come to this problem every day, and the solution is hard to find.
Yeah.
So I can shout from the rooftops, I can be on a podcast, I can be on a webinar, I can talk all day long to everyone that will listen. But right now, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of folks that are just in email deliverability hell, and they may not find me. They may not find senders. So that's always a challenge, like knowing that you have a solution that really works for a large swath of businesses. And a lot of businesses are looking for you, but you can Google up, down, left, right.
Yeah.
The combinations of things you have to hit perfectly in order for my business to come up is sort of hard, even though we have pretty good SEO and all these other things. Just because there's a lot of people who sell email deliverability-ish things that will always pay more to get in front of them or always be pushing that kind of thing. So I think that being discoverable in the moment when someone needs it is really the biggest challenge.
Yeah, and we have a motto over here to be everywhere all the time. So, for us, we do a lot of these content marketing initiatives where, we do outbound emails too and a variety of different tactics, but, you never know when, you might be in the right place at the right time for the people when they have that problem. So it's very important just to be, out here, making some noise about what you guys do, telling people that there's a better way, because you never know if the right person's listening and ready for it right then and there. I mean, we don't all have to throw our money at Google ads, trying to show up for the right search keywords and spending a bunch of money to sending a bunch of money to those guys, right? But all these little things that we do here with content marketing really help. We got a couple questions here, actually.
Questions, geez, guys, leave us alone. Come on, we're trying to have a conversation.
Yeah, these ones are from left field. Just kidding. No, these are great questions, actually. By the way, do these guys know you? So what other basic first steps would you recommend when diagnosing and trying to provide a solution? He has a follow-up question. What other basic first steps would you recommend when diagnosed? Oh, he's expanding on it. Yeah. So I guess what steps would you recommend for somebody to diagnose that they have a problem? You mentioned a few earlier.
Sure. Look at your metrics. Look at the email sending metrics you have. If you're seeing a big drop that's sort of inexplicable, like you were getting 42% open rates and now it's 35 and then it's 28, you probably are having some sort of deliverability problem. The other side is sendability problem. If you're having trouble sending emails, you'll know. If you're sending from Google, they'll start to they'll basically cut you off. They'll flag your account and let you know, hey, stop sending like you're sending. That's a sign that you have a sending problem. The only way to correct that problem truly is to extricate all your sending from Google. There's diagnosing DNS issues. You can use tools like MX Toolbox, which will give you a readout on what you think what is going on with your DNS records. And you can also investigate those yourself. Yeah, those are some basic, very, very first steps in order to.
Yeah, there's some sites too that you could test your email deliverability with too, right? Do you?
Mail-tester.com is a good one. It's free. I think pretty soon we're probably going to launch one on Sender's website as well. Don't wait for that though. If you have a problem now, you should go to mail.tester. I think it's mail-tester.com. mail-tester.com, I think.
Something
Is a
like that.
great
It
domain.
shows up on the top of Google search results. I've used that one a few times too.
Yeah.
Nice. And then, yeah, obviously avoiding like spammy language too, right? Is there any like big like keywords that really definitely send you to spam, like free money? Obviously, you don't want to say that one.
Yeah, there's the combination of words and messed up DNS records or anything that kind of comes off as deceptive or aggressive can definitely trigger spam. So things like click here and you put click in here as a link, or a link that's a redirect. So the link doesn't go directly where it's supposed to go, or the words free, all in caps, dollar signs, things like that are sort of obvious.
Yeah.
There are tools unaffiliated with me. There's one called lavender.ai, which helps you rewrite your emails in a way that are a little bit more persuasive and also avoid language that can trigger things, which is kind of cool. And then there are other tools out there that are spam word checkers that can work pretty well for that purpose too.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people might even fall for that one. You said click here and hyperlinking that. It seems like an obvious CTA almost, but
yeah, I mean, if it's an age domain and you've been doing emails for a long time at a pretty consistent volume, maybe that doesn't cause a problem. If it's a relatively newer domain and you haven't done a lot of emailing, then maybe it will cause problems. It's not, they don't universally apply to everyone, and that's a little bit frustrating for folks. Same thing with images in an email. For example, if you've had a footer for years and years and years and it has no problems, then you spin up a new brand and you throw a footer that has a image in it, maybe that sends all your emails to spam, and you're like, but I've been using the same footer for years. It's like, well, it's not the same. It's just not the same. Something changes, everything changes.
Well, yeah, you have a pretty interesting stance on hard questions as well too, right? So I think people watching this should have some hard questions about whether their email deliverability is working right. But I guess, what is the meaning of hard questions for you actually, and how do you apply it to your business?
So I had a friend who told me the old expression, hard questions, easy life, easy questions, hard life. You ever heard that expression, Andy?
Yes, and different phrases, but I totally agree with it.
So I kind of like most of those phrases. I was like, yeah, whatever. That's kind of BS or whatever.
Philosophy fan myself, because there's a lot in even a sentence that there's a whole story and meaning behind it. I love them.
Sure. Well, what happened was my friend said that to me and I contemplated on it, and I was like, you know what? That's really interesting. For 1 week, I'm only going to ask hard questions. Like, what does that even mean? So in every situation I got into, I would ask myself, what is the sort of elephant in the room question? Like, what is the question that really changes the dynamic, but also gets to the heart of something? And I really concentrated on that. And I found that a lot of things got a lot easier.
Yeah.
For example, if you have a team member that you feel like is underperforming, if you just come out with the hard question, like, I feel like you're underperforming. What is going on?
Or
oftentimes you've asked the hard question and you get the answer, and then they open up to you in a way that helps you understand what's going on. Or the opposite of like, I feel like I'm failing as a CEO. Do you sense that? Or something. It's like, wow, damn.
Yeah.
But so I think that trying to figure out what the hard question is, I'm not talking about being aggressive or
what's getting to the root of the issue and the problem so you could actually solve it, right? If you're going to stick your head in the sand, you're not going to accomplish anything. It's so important in life just to kind of strip through the layers of the onion to get to the core of it and just look at what the actual problem is. And then you can work backwards from there to figure out how to effectively solve it. But if you're blind to what the problem is or what the root cause is, you're never gonna resolve the issue. It's just going to proliferate.
Yeah. And with clients too, I mean, asking the question of, are we winning or losing?
Yeah.
I was
saying, I don't want to be right. I just want to win.
I don't know about that expression, but yeah.
Well, a lot of people want to be right, and they don't, winning is solving the problem, right? So there's a difference between hitting face and trying to look right and, be right all the time. But like you said, asking the hard questions. If you want to win, you have to ask the hard questions. And you might not necessarily look right, or, might not be the most popular guy in the room, but you just got to get to the issue and you got to solve it. So, if you want to win, of course.
Yeah, makes sense.
But I guess what's next for Senders? Where do you see the company in coming years? We mentioned 5 in the pre-call, and he said that's too long. So, what's going
I
on over 6 months? That's so exciting.
we're laser focused on solving sending and delivery problems right now for clients, and then making sure that 2024 can be a very solid year for all of our clients in their sending. That's sort of all we care about. Google's changing rules come February. That's interesting. We're the ones who are responsible for that for our clients. They don't want to think about what those rule changes mean. We're in charge of that. So those are really important things for us. And we're going to be focusing very heavily in 2024 on making sure that all of our clients get all the tools, all the settings, everything they need in order to be able to keep their emails going in the way that they want and need and succeed with it. So that's our immediate focus. And, every year always surprises. I think that everything seemed normal until 2020, and then no years have ever been how we imagined it.
Yeah, it's been an interesting times. I don't know what age you are too, like you mentioned with me, but we've been through a lot in the last decade and a half. So, I'd consider myself a millennial. So,
Yeah, I guess I'm a millennial. I'm an elder millennial.
yeah, me too. I'm on the upper. I'm 38. How old are you?
I'm 38 also.
Oh, happy birthday! Just kidding.
Yeah, I'll be 39 in February.
Nice. I'm just turning 38 next week, actually. So it's gonna on Thanksgiving.
So I'm your elder. It makes sense. I have a little bit more experience than you do.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, you've been in New York longer than me, so that's probably why. Hard knock life. So I guess anybody interested in your services, who should come to you and why should they come to you?
Sure. Anyone's having email questions, issues, B2B sending from Google Workspace, seeing any issues, feel free to stop by. You can find me on LinkedIn. I post some things that, are interesting or not interesting or upset people or don't upset people or whatever there. And then Benny@senders.co and anywhere else that makes sense.
That's perfect. Well, Benny, it's been a great chatting with you. We'll probably have to catch up in Brooklyn when I get back to New York, probably sometime in the next 2 weeks.
Sure.
It would be good to meet you in person, but
yeah, shoot me a note.
Yeah, definitely. And we look forward to working more with your business. And anybody interested in checking out Senders, please visit their website. I believe it's senders.co. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Great. And you could also check it out today in the B2B SaaS marketplace. Nacho is the best place to buy SaaS. Once again, thanks so much for coming on today, Benny. And anybody interested in solving their email deliverability issues, don't hesitate.
Come on by.
Come over to Benny's place. All right. Thanks again, bud.
Bye.